It's really an unprecedented opportunity to know everything about burnout. We will discuss everything with author and educator Christopher. Christopher, could you please introduce yourself and what do you do for business?
Okay, hi. So my name is Christopher Merrifield. Was an educator before and I researched into burnout. And along the way, I discovered three keys called the three M's. And that's what my business is about. It's called www.burnoutfighter.com. And what I do is I try to help people find these keys so that they can understand how burnout really exists in the 21st century and how to overcome it and turn it into their success tool.
Basically, what is burnout?
Okay, burnout is the high or the worst end of stress. So this is the point where you really have a breakdown or a crash. And what it is it's the accumulation of many kinds of stresses in your life. So it's not just a work thing, it's when every part of your life it starts to get on top of you and then you start to feel really bad and it just hits you and it can end up destroying your life. And for some people it takes years to get over.
What are the three M's?
Okay, the first one is misconception. So this is when we don't really understand who we are in this situation, what we're doing. So we have lost kind of like our identity and our place in the world. And this is because things have moved forward, certainly with the virus and the movement of technology. Things have moved so fast that actually our image or our understanding of who we are and how we are is not really fitting with our reality. And this is our misconception. And maladaptation is when, which is the second of the three M's, is when we don't really know how to read our body, our emotions, and how we're coping. And so we can misread things. And one of the worst ways to misread it is we tend to think that, hey, I'm feeling a bit tired these days. Maybe I'm just stressed. Maybe it's just a work thing. This is a temporary thing. And we think, yeah, I can go and do some things that I enjoy. I can get over it. And in fact, it's not. It's much larger than that. And the last of them is mishandling. And mishandling is a real key thing in this century because what it is the fact that we get bombarded with information. And so in old times, most people would say, I talk to some close friends, I maybe talk to usually like an older person or maybe a teacher or a priest of some kind. But these days with social media, there's articles, there's videos, there's courses, and we just get bombed by all this information that this actually causes more burnout for us because it stresses us with, okay, I've now got 1,000 ideas. What do I do with them? So unfortunately, this is another product of having so much information available. So these are the three M's.
And why do people not understand burnout the proper way?
Okay. The reason why we don't understand burnout the proper way is because there has been so much misinformation and misunderstanding by the large institutions that usually look after this for us. And if we look at the World Health Organization in England, if we look at the National Health um, Service about what it is, and even if you look in the States, the American Psychological Association, they always talk about burnout is something to do with work. And this isn't true. It's just because at work we have other people around us, they start to notice that, hey, your performance has gone down, you're kind of miserable, you don't have that motivation. And so their interest is economic. And even here with the National Health Service, the interest is what's wrong with you? Is there a pill or a way to patch you up to get you out there, not straining the service and get you back to work? So it's not really looking at the whole person and everything about you. And this is why, really, when you start digging into burnout, or you feel like you have it, you get a lot of misinformation, and that there's not the same thing.
Are there certain stages for burnout?
Yes, there is. In the beginning, the first stage is usually the obvious stage. People at work start noticing that, hey, this guy looks kind of unhappy, what's going on? And then the other stages are that once we've had that unhappiness or we feel miserable, it starts to be in every part of our life. So we find that at home, I'm not really happy, not really motivated. I'm doing things that I should enjoy. I'm not really happy and motivated there. You find that no matter where you go, even in the sleeping hours, not that pleased with yourself. You feel like, yeah, there's something missing in my life. And then sadly, that moves on to a real identity crisis where we think, what am I doing? There's no meaning to this. And am I this really, am I really the right person? Am I a good person? Am I contributing value to people who I care about or things I care about? And so you have this real identity crisis. And that's what makes it so hard, because you really have to recreate who you are for the situation now.
And are there certain techniques and tools to deal with the burnout?
Um, yes, there is. I think one of the best techniques is reflection. And one of my favorite ones is walking meditation. Just when you're walking, clear your mind, um, think about who you want to be. And one of the best ways also is to think about your roles and break down what do those roles mean in terms of your function, your value, what it means to you emotionally, and start questioning the little rules that you have in your mind. And let's take a very simple one. In England, we say, like, look after the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves, like how you make yourself wealthier. And we all have these little rules in our heads, these little mental scripts. And since things have changed so quickly, we're finding, especially with COVID-19, that hey, these rules don't work anymore. And with technology, hey, things don't actually work like that anymore. And this is what happens when we're burning out. We find that actually everything I believed in, it's actually broken up, and we need to start redefining them in our own way for who we are.
And how would you bring this issue more into the public awareness?
Okay, well, firstly, I've printed a book called The 3 M's of Burnout, which you can find on Amazon. And I've priced it quite low. It's only $5 US. And the reason is that what I find is one of the biggest problems out there is obviously psychologists, therapy. It costs a lot of money. I think the average in the US and in England is like £200 or $200 an hour. And that doesn't really help, because then you have your mental health at hostage to how much your pay package is and how much time you've got. An average person with a family, a full-time job, we don't have time for that. So this is to make it accessible. I've done YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel called The Burnout Fighter. I have do podcasts via my site, and obviously webinars like yourself, and my networks via LinkedIn and Twitter. So I'm getting the message out there and a lot of good feedback at the moment. So I'm just going to keep pushing.
Awesome. And is burnout like affecting young people more than old people?
It's affecting young people, well, yeah, a lot. And I think, again, it's because of the era we're in with technology. And one of the major issues with social media or IoT at the moment is that we're never switched off. So in the old times, say up until the 90s, it was very clear: you finish work, you go home, it's done. If you want to learn something about a new skill, you grab a magazine or something, or you get sent off on a specific course. Now, you're always checking notifications. There's always another Twitter feed. There's always another Facebook app or something going on, and you need to respond to them. Certainly, as a person with a career, every time it's just, there's this new technique, there's this new thing, there's this new law, and it just doesn't stop. So what we need to do is start creating our own boundaries about, okay, I'm going to put a little auto message on my emails and other things that I'm only going to read this once a day. I'm only going to put an hour to it once a day. In these hours, if you want to contact me, it's great. After that, you ain't going to contact me. Forget it. So we need to establish our own boundaries rather than relying on other people or us or our employers, schools to do that for us. So we have to really manage our time.
And how much does self-understanding play here?
Self-understanding applies here a lot, because when you're getting bombarded with information, you need to establish your own filters. And that can only come from what you really believe in. So I would say start with just 3 to 5 core things you really have interest in or really need to know. And for everything else, make sure it just goes straight in the bin. Keep that filter really small. And also do it via time. Just say, if I'm spending more than an hour a day online, then I'm wasting my time. Do I really need to know every time someone's posted something about their dinner that day? I don't really need to see this. So we need to just have some control. Maybe leave it, say, for most people, the weekend. Say, okay, the weekend, I'm going to spend 2 hours messing around. But we really need to have that control. And the way every social media device works as well is very, very different. So Twitter will fire at you very short, snappy little feeds. Facebook is a bit longer, a bit deeper, and LinkedIn certainly much more professional. So you also have to get an awareness of how you're going to manage them. Personally, I started off really learning LinkedIn. I shut everything else off. I thought, I'm going to just use this one. I'm going to master it because it's useful to me. And then I grew out slightly from there. But I use only one. LinkedIn is my base. So I suggest for everyone else, you just choose one, put your mastery there, and the others can be just extra if you need them.
You early mentioned mishandling and
Mhm.
maladaptation with burnout. How can we make sure that we are doing the right thing?
Okay, well, with this, what we need to do is a serious reflection. Look at our how we coped with stress in the past. Maybe if you're quite young, you're looking at your school days, stressful exams, or maybe a hard time when you were bullied. Just look at how did you cope with this, and also give yourself some gratitude for the fact that you got through it and how you got through it, how you felt, and what little things make you happy every day. And this can be simply that, when you're walking to school, you see maybe a bird singing, it's just sunny, these little things that make you just that little bit happier. And start making a note of different things that you have tried and things that have worked for you in the past. And so you can build up a general theme about what really works for you. Because if you know several different things, you can combine them together and start building your own little package of stuff that, hey, this is going to get me out of this. And if it doesn't, I know what kind of things are making me happy. So if you have a theme like nature makes you happy and say music, maybe the few things you know now don't work. You think, but I know I like this thing. Maybe there's something else that I can develop and combine it with something practical to just give me the emotional advantage as well as the practical advantage.
And what if our coping system does not work?
If our coping system does not work, what we need to do then is we have to go back to that misconception stage, see what is so different, because our coping mechanisms are linked to how we see ourselves and what we're supposed to be doing. And if we start questioning those roles, we might find that actually I thought I was doing this and actually I'm not. Now when I look at it, I'm actually supposed to be doing this, and this is why my coping mechanisms aren't working. But one thing I will say about coping mechanisms is don't just do it so it makes you feel better. Combine it with something that's going to give you a practical answer. Otherwise, you're going to go round and round and round in circles, making yourself feel good, and then you feel bad again. So there's going to be a little bit of hardship there. So you should allow for, say, 25-30% is the hard bit, but that's the bit that's going to smash the ice and get you out of this situation.
And what kind of understanding should people build and have about burnout? Like, how can we choose our adaptation technique? How can we choose our solutions and so on?
Okay, so when we're building our adaptation technique, what we should do is after we've done some reflection, is have a look at how we respond. And because everyone responds differently, only we can know that. So have a look at it. When I'm upset, do I lash out or do I go into myself? Do I start thinking about some ways of escape? Like in England, the favorite way to escape is start drinking. And am I getting drunk? Am I withdrawing into just, I want to get out the office or get away from everyone, just go into my computer game? And if so, then you can think, this is maladaptation because I'm actually trying to escape. And my proper way to adapt should be that make a very small plan. This small plan can be just maybe 2 or 3 steps of how I'm going to smash or change things and change my habits, what rules I have in my mind. And this happens because of what I call clusters. And clusters are practice or a method that we use to do something, a belief about that practice, and also an emotion we attach to it. Again, because I'm from England, I find it easier to use English things. So, for example, there's a common myth that if I'm unhappy, I go drink beer. If I drink beer, I will be happy. This is not necessarily true. Any doctor will tell you, well, actually, alcohol's poison, so it can't be making you that good. But we have this habit in our mind, and it is from our culture, that this is an expectation. So if we start looking at it sensibly, you find that actually that is not true, or at least it cannot be true every time. I need to say, smash this thing and start doing something that's going to get me out of my problem right now.
And what are the symptoms of other people who have burnout, and how can we approach them if we can?
This is one of the hardest questions that many people ask me. Um, so if it's a colleague or a friend, you probably know them quite well. And if they start becoming out of character, usually from what they usually are like, then you can try to approach them. Now, this is a very cultural thing because and personal thing, because some people may hate you bringing it to them publicly. So don't do that. Do it quietly. Maybe stick them a note. if you have their message system or something, send them an email to a colleague, just bring them to the side like, hey, I just want to notice that you're not doing so well today. Give them some contact of you because they will probably come back to you later. If that doesn't work, and this is true to some Asian cultures where they would feel happier with someone who is culturally sensitive to them and will really understand them. And burnout, because it's many things, we have to think about in this scenario, the way we are today, we've got to think about being homesick. We've got to think about maybe some things to do with our religion that are extra duties that other people outside, they wouldn't understand this. Certainly for many people in Southeast Asia, stuff to do with mental illness is a massive taboo and a huge humiliation. So a direct conversation like that doesn't work. However, it can go two ways. Sometimes they prefer somebody inside their culture who will understand them. Sometimes, which I found with some people I've worked with about people from Vietnam, Malaysia, and that, they were actually happier to speak to someone from the West because it was out of their little bubble, so there was no humiliation. So keep all those options open, maybe try two or three things. And if it is to do with work or family, then maybe speak to someone who's senior in their position or their family role. And if it's in your community and you're connected by your temple, maybe talk to your priest or whoever who they maybe respect and will look to as an elder.
Yeah. What else would you like to say?
What else would I like to say? Okay, well, when you're using the 3Ms, it's devised as a tool that will make sure that resolving burnout is accessible to everyone in the world, no matter how your situation, no matter how much money you might have or how much time. And it is a recyclable tool. So even though you go through all the three stages, if you find that actually I'm starting to feel a bit of stress again, you can use it to refresh and go through everything again. And so you keep adapting to these times. If there's something that's really true about this time, many people have called this the era of disruption. And we've seen it via technology has changed. Everything is now a globalized economy. We're seeing that COVID-19 has then given us another massive disruption. So burnout's going to become more and more. It's not like, as you probably have heard, like in the 50s, 60s, whatever golden time, you just get into a job, you stay there, everything doesn't move for 30 or 40 years. Everyone knows what to expect of each other. And sadly, that is not the case these days. People are looking at, can you adapt quickly? Can you find your information quickly? Can you learn this quickly? Because if you've learned it now, it's great for now. Next year, it's going to be, people won't even know what you're talking about. So this is why I've created this tool. And it's off my own experience as well, because I have faced this kind of burnout many times.
Yeah, it has been more than amazing, more than great getting these unusual insights into burnout. Thank you, Christopher, so much for your help indeed.
Thank you. And it's been great speaking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.